Hi there, dear listener. Uh, uh, Lance didn't sleep on the porch that night. He slept on the couch. I'm going to make mistakes like that. Uh, be patient, please. So, Violet said, Let's hear some more about Wedge." But then she said, "No, wait a minute. Wait. That may take some time. We got to work on your shoulder. We got to work on your knees. So therapy first." So they did that. Now the shoulder, it wasn't hurting as bad. And also, Violet wasn't pushing it as much as she had been. They tried walking a little bit with the walker. They were going to have to do a lot of this. And each time, Lance did a little bit better. They massaged his knee a little bit, but she pointed out that it's time for you to start doing that. Let's see, it was left knee. You need to start all the time working on that because you've got some idea how much that hurts, and you need to push yourself. Remember, we're trying to get you back on a bicycle. So he worked on this, and she said, eventually you got to just basically do that all the time if we're going to get you healed. So anyway, he did that, and then Violet said, "Okay, now let's hear a little bit more about Wedge." Well, where to begin? Lance said he's a friend. First and foremost, he's a good friend. Now, he's in his 70s, I'm in my 20s, but we're good friends. And he's a little bit like a mentor to me. And he calls me his apprentice, which is probably a right way to say it. That's probably true. He affected me already a lot because I think I might have told you this. I was going to study architecture in college, I thought. He talked me out of it. He said I ought to save building. If I imagined that architecture was, I'd get to build houses, design houses, and build houses. He said, you better just learn to be a carpenter and then someday build your own house. Because most architects, they design parts of heating or ventilating systems in buildings and stuff. I think, said Lance, that he mentioned your father, actually, Violet, because wasn't your father an architect? And Violet said, "Oh yes, he was one of the best." And so anyway, I changed my major or my career, and I decided I'd go into sustainability studies, kind of a strange name. Now, Wedge wasn't completely happy with that either. See, for the 4 years that I was in college, he was following what I was doing. We've known each other for a while, and he was amazed, and actually I'm a little bit amazed too, that reading, like, what do you call it when you have to read it before you even start a course? I can't remember what you call that anymore. But that basic reading should have been Farmers of 40 Centuries by King, I think. How could you study sustainability studies without having read that book? And the book was never even mentioned. So Wedge was a little disappointed in what I learned. But in any case, he taught me, when I wasn't at school, how to build things. And we worked together on the farm a lot. Rough carpenter, he said, because that way it's more fun. So let's see, what else? Well, he taught me about craftsmanship. You've already used the word some, and Wedge used to talk about you, Violet, a good bit, because he said he learned a lot from you while you were in Peace Corps. And you must have been in the same town or something. And at that, Violet said, let me take over. I'll explain some things that Mandy doesn't know either about him. We were in Peace Corps in the same town in Brazil. And my sister was in that town too, before me. Peace Corps was experimenting. They wanted to try something out. And you see, well, it had to do with where Wedge went to college and probably, but no, it wasn't that. because it started before that. Peace Corps wanted to see what would happen if they would send volunteers to the same community, volunteers who knew each other beforehand. Would that make to knit a community more? I don't know if I can explain that, but you see, my older sister, this would be Rosemary. The oldest was Sage, and she didn't go into Peace Corps. But my older sister, Rosemary, she went to Peace Corps Brazil. And she was in a town called Catole de Rocha, a Brazilian town, and she worked in a crafts program. Now the crafts goes deep in my family. I think I've told you about that already. Surely I have. I can take it back to my father. It probably goes further back than that, because that very name, Elanter, is the Scottish name for craftsman. You know, when my ancestors came to Boston, they had to have a last name, and what they did was they could have kept their what do you call it, their tribe, what do you call it, clan. They could have kept their clan name. A lot of people did, but my great-grandfather or grandfather, something like that, great-grandfather, I think it was, he decided that they would try to break away from that. So he needed a last name, and he chose Elanter, because that explained what his trade was. He was a craftsman. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because in Peace Corps, Rosemary was in a crafts program. She started this business of trying to teach a certain craft or various crafts to Brazilians and get them to form a cooperative to sell their craft. Well, when her term was up in 2 years, I went right in there. I was her sister. I knew a lot about crafts, and that's that family thing I was talking about. And Wedge was joining the Peace Corps at the same time, and he and I knew each other from way, way back. Our families were friends. It was almost like we were family, and that was good enough for Peace Corps to put this stuff together. So he was put in the same town. That was 3 of us now that had connections that we knew already working at the same site. Now, before, at the time that Rosemary was there was a guy named Edgy, or Ed, but the Brazilians called him Edgy, Edmundo, Edmund. But Edmundo was what the Brazilians would say. And that ended up getting shortened to Edgy. They couldn't say Ed, they'd say Edge. And so Edgy was there. And then after after I left, and after Wedge had left too, there was another man named, we just call him Boss. His real name is Bossiano, I think. I know his last name, I think his last name is Venucciano or something like that. Well, he worked with them. Now, he wasn't related, but he married a Brazilian woman named Portia, Portia. Now, sometimes people think the name's the name of a car. No, it's Portia. It's a woman's name, as in the Merchant of Venice. There was a major character there named Portia. Well, so Portia and Boss, they were married and they worked there. And you know, what Peace Corps tried to do worked, you know, for a while anyway, because the 6 of us, let's see, there was Edgy, there was Rosemary, there was me, there was Wedge, there was Boss. I'm coming up with 7. That can't be. There was Edgy, Rosemary, me, Violet, Wedge, okay, Boss, and then Portia, the Brazilian woman that he married. And we stayed friends for a long time. So in a way, it worked. Now, all right, let's get back. I want to know what's going on with Wedge now.